Today, we are diving into one of the most profound and, let's be honest, kind of confusing concepts in all of Eastern philosophy, the Tao. It's this core idea from the Tao teaching, and for thousands of years, it's had people completely captivated and maybe a little bit puzzled. And right from the jump, the author Laozi hits us with a huge paradox. The very first sentence basically says, "Hey, I'm about to explain this thing to you. But if you can actually explain it with words, it's not the real thing." So, how are we supposed to even start with that? Well, that's the big question we're tackling. What in the world is this fundamental principle of the universe? And here's the twist you probably didn't see coming. Our key to unlocking this ancient Chinese mystery might just come from a totally unexpected place, a series of letters written from Persia to China way back in 1917. All right, let's get into it. So our guide on this journey is a man named Abdul Baha. He was a central figure in the Baha'i Faith. And, this was someone who spent a huge chunk of his life as a prisoner and an exile. But his vision for the world was just absolutely massive. So around 1917, just a few years before he passed away, he wrote these tablets to China. And what's so amazing here is the incredible level of respect he showed. He didn't just tell his followers to go to China, he urged them to really immerse themselves, to understand the culture, to study the scriptures, and to talk with people on their own terms. This deep, genuine appreciation for Chinese wisdom is what gives us this really unique bridge to understanding its most foundational concept. So, with that spirit of open-mindedness, let's try to unpack the Tao. Instead of getting stuck trying to find one single impossible definition, what if we look at it through 4 different but totally interconnected lenses? So let's kick things off with meaning number 1. This is the biggest, most abstract layer of the Tao. Okay, think of this as the universe's operating system. It's the invisible, timeless set of rules that's just always there, governing everything we see. Laozi called this source Wu, which basically means nothingness or non-being. He said it was the beginning of heaven and earth. It's kind of like the silent pattern behind everything that exists. Now, for this second meaning. This one brings the Tao down from the clouds and into the physical world that we can actually see and touch. So if the first meaning is the software, you can think of this one as the hardware. The Tao is also understood as the fundamental, indivisible little particle that everything is made of. Laozi called this tangible part you, or being, and he called it the mother of all things. It's the literal building block of all reality. And this is where it gets really mind-bending. Check out this connection. Laozi's whole idea that existence springs from non-existence, well, it has this incredible parallel in the writings of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i Faith. You've got ancient Chinese thought and these 19th century Persian texts both wrestling with the exact same deep idea, that creation somehow emerges from a state of absolute nothingness. And this whole duality thing, this idea of an unseen source and a seen reality, it's not just a Taoist idea. It's a cornerstone of so many major Eastern philosophies. Confucianism talks about the way and the vessel. Buddhism contrasts emptiness with form. And as we've seen, Taoism has nothingness and being. They're all using different words, but they're pointing to the same fundamental truth about how reality is structured. Okay, on to our third meaning. We've gone from the cosmic and the physical, and now we're moving into the human realm, the ethical side of things. See, the Tao isn't just a description of how the universe is. It's also a prescription for how we should live in it. The way of heaven is the ultimate role model for how humans should behave. The idea is that by watching the patterns of the cosmos, we can actually learn how to live a life of virtue and harmony. This is captured so beautifully in the I Ching, the Book of Changes. It says, look at the heavens. Their movement is constant and powerful, so we should be strong and untiring too. Then it says, look at the earth. It's receptive. It supports everything. So we should also build up our virtue to support the world around us. Our morality, our T, comes directly from watching the Tao of nature. And that brings us to the fourth and final definition. And in a lot of ways, this one is the most profound of all. Laozi has this famous line, man follows earth follows heaven follows the Tao, and the Tao follows nature. But wait a minute. Here, nature doesn't just mean forests and mountains. The word is ziran, and it literally means that which is so of itself, or spontaneity. The ultimate principle, the thing that Tao itself follows, is just being. It's the uncaused first cause. It's the point where the question why just stops. So we have these 4 layers of meaning, but what does it all mean for us, for society? Well, this is where we shift from the Tao, the way of the universe, to Ti, which is how we apply that way through human virtue. And Lao Tzu gives us a pretty stark warning about this. He lays out this kind of ladder of social decay. He says, first, a society loses its connection to the natural Tao, so it invents virtue. When that's lost, it creates rules for benevolence. When that fails, it has to enforce righteousness. And at the very bottom, all that's left is ritual, just an empty shell that, for Lao Tzu, is the beginning of chaos. The big takeaway? The more external rules you need, the further you've drifted from your natural, harmonious state. So if drifting away from the Tao leads to chaos, how do we find our way back? I mean, how do we even perceive this invisible, fundamental thing in the first place? Well, the answer, it turns out, is pretty universal. It's incredible. Both of these foundational Chinese texts agree on one thing. Insight doesn't come from running around or arguing endlessly. It comes from a state of being silent, still, and unmoving. It's only when we find that quiet space that we can even begin to feel the subtle workings of the Tao around us and within us. And here we are, right back where we started. This ancient Eastern wisdom echoes so powerfully in the Baha'i writings. Baha'u'llah says that true understanding comes from deep, quiet reflection. He literally values 1 hour of real, thoughtful contemplation more than a whole lifetime of just going through the motions. The method for connecting with what's real is strikingly similar, no matter the culture or the century. Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty big question for our own lives, right now. In this world of ours, with the constant noise, the endless notifications, the nonstop distractions, have we forgotten how to just be still? And if we have, are we also losing our ability to connect with something deeper, with our own true nature and with the fundamental way of the universe itself?